Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite dark sorcerer, Angelus, son of Abaddon. Tonight, I'd like to discuss rituals and prepping, or I should say, preparation for ritual workings. Now, depending on the system that you're utilizing, the type of lunar or solar, even planetary actions that you're looking to perform, down to the very entities that you're calling forth, must be researched fully, down to your setting up your altar room, your inner and outer sanctum. The difference between an individual or a solitary type working, going into, say, for an example, a coven setting. Okay, all of this takes place within the preparation of rituals. It's not just about you as the practitioner. You see, it's here, but it's also here. Okay? It's a matter of respect. Over the last 48 hours to 72 hours, I have been asked quite a few questions. Had some things occur in my own life, that of my family's, and I've delved into rituals. And while I've been thinking about this, even during the full moon, early morning, I did a ritual of awakening the lick, the necromancer to be within me. More so, I've been working a lot with the demerge, the demonic. And today, I just can't get out of this dark aspect of myself. There's a lot of darkness in me today, and I've got this call to be near my altar. It's even shows in my eyes, as you can probably see. This blackness, it's just there, which tells me even through the dream states, the images that I've been seeing throughout the day correlate with what we're about to discuss here today, this night, 7:46 p.m. Eastern Time. So why don't we delve into this now? First of all, getting into a ritual setting, you have to figure out what type of ritual you're doing. You have to get the tools of the sorcerer, sorceress even, witch, warlock, that you are going to utilize for that rite, that ceremony, that ritual, that spell working or spell casting. Next, it's a setting up in preparation. How are you going to go from the outer sanctum into the inner sanctum of your ritual space? What type of clothing is needed due to the type of energy working that you're doing, not just who you're calling forth. Doing black magic requires black. Putting a black altar cloth on your altar table, even if it's just setting up, putting a black cloth over it, maybe a black towel, to work on. Wearing all black, having your athame unsheathed, the items needed from the skull to the pentagram, or I should say inverted pentagram. Lately, I've been seeing both the regular and the inverted. I know what both mean, but most don't. They don't have a clue about the dimensions in the ranking system. But most importantly, the differences between feminine and masculine attributes when it comes to them. It's like taking the witch's oath, the witch's creed, the witch's pyramid, taking it from a pentagram and putting it into an actual 3D pyramid structure. These things play a massive role when utilizing magic of any form. When you approach or am ready to set up your altar, it's best to open those portals, casting the circle. I'm not talking the circle of protection. That's for pussies, literally. These white witches that think, oh, I need protection from demons or angels. These are these morons that follow the Grimoire aspects of Solomon. You know, all this really does, these circle of protections that these so-called practitioners use, all they're doing is telling these spirits, hey, you come past this point, you're going to be cursed into damnation. You're going to have to deal with the universe in itself, the divinity aspects. These white witches really don't have a freaking clue what it means to work with spirits on a personal level. When you use a circle, it is a circle of empowerment. It empowers your rituals, your unique circle. Okay. You can make it out of salt. You can make it out of tree branches, say twigs. You can make it out of a stone slab. It does not matter. What matters is that you have that circle of empowerment to empower your spells and your ritual workings. The triangle of evocation, for an example, to call forth the spirits, to commune with them so they can physically manifest in front of you. That's if you have actually prepped correctly and actually done your research into ritual evocations and invocations, knowing the difference between them. Recently, an individual had, just on this one topic, had commented, this is why they don't come. Why? Because not all of us use circles of empowerment, because we dare to call them through invocations or evocations. You see, a lot of individuals that get into the Grimoires, they tend to go for the invocation to bring them forth into your altar room, your inner sanctum. They don't have the balls to invoke them into themselves. I had an individual comment on one of my posts saying, nothing happened, nothing occurred. And this tells me that this individual was not aware of the energies being cast, being manifested. Because if he had actually paid attention to what was actually going on behind the scenes, he would have noticed that all the candles were still, except for one, which was going nuts. Maybe two max. The spirits were simply being evoked, were simply making themselves known, their presence known. If this individual had actually learned divination, such as understanding the difference between, say, for an example, dowsing rods or, say, pyromancy, the interpretations of candle flames, much like a pendulum. Left, yes. Right, no. Staying in the center, maybe. Or try again later. You see, this individual didn't have a clue, just making a bold statement. This stuff happens in any given ritual or rite because it's called ignorance, closed mindedness, even. Individuals who know what they're doing, individuals who get into their rituals on a personal level, such as becoming intimate with a spirit. You see, you look at Behemoth X, my good friend and buddy, Joseph Nunn. He uses the universal circle put forth by E.A. Quetting. And yes, I'm aware of the recent comments by another practitioner who basically put forth a photo of a woman who claims to be married to him or claims to be dating this guy. I had to laugh at it because even E.A. Quetting has said quite clear he's married and has kids. So how could you be dating him? You know what I'm saying? This is the drama that I'm talking about here, the lack of respect for occultism and rituals. People who only want to make a joke out of it. They don't have the gall to delve in on a personal level, to dedicate their lives. So when I call forth my good friend Behemoth X, my brother from Canada, a brother from another mother, Joseph Nunn, you watch his videos. Hell, you watch my rituals live, and you're going to see the difference in them. I don't use a circle because I don't want them to feel like they have to prove themselves to me. And I'm definitely not going to threaten them with eternal damnation. You see, when I work with demons, such as Belial, Azazel, Satan, Lucifer Raphael, Volok, Molech, Dagon, Paimon, Balith, Balaam, Seer, Stolox, Shax. It doesn't matter the demon. It doesn't matter the rank. The respect between me and them are there. When you go into your outer sanctum, you're preparing yourself for the inner sanctum. You're mentally prepping yourself for the work that needs to be done, that lays ahead. It doesn't matter if you're Wiccan. It doesn't matter if you're pagan. It doesn't matter if you're a voodoo practitioner. It doesn't matter if you're into Palo Mayumbi, Santa Morte, even. If you're working with death essences such as Santa Morte, Baron Samedi, Papa Nabo, Hell, Hades, Anubis, Supe, it does not matter. You need to have that respect and understanding about what you're doing, how you're going about it, and what needs to be done during that ritual and what tools need to be used. This is why you pre-prep everything so that when you walk into that pitch black room, all you have to do is sit down, kneel down, or lay down, light the candles, the incense, call forth the quarters, the four watchtowers, such as the four elementals, the four kings of the cardinal directions in demonology, and begin your rites, your rituals. But even going in and doing this, there's a pause, a hesitation to collect yourself, to physically and mentally prepare yourself through a state of either a mantra type meditation or perhaps even a breathing exercise to bring you in line with the energies that you are contacting, such as that of death. As a necromancer, death is all around me. It doesn't matter if I'm calling on Santa Morte in my altar or if I'm calling on her in a graveyard. I could be out in a park, in the woods, wherever my altar is set up. You still have the outer sanctum, the inner sanctum, and then your main altar setup to be that's already prepared. You're already in your getup. The sigils, seals, wardings, everything that you're going to need is already on the altar. And all you have to do is do the work. But a lot of people who approach anything of the left hand path see it as a joke. They don't have they think it's a game. Now, I was recently talking with a satanic brother of mine, John Saunders, who's also from Canada. We were watching a video by VK Jahannam. Okay. Jahannam is a Jewish word meaning hell. Okay. Just for those of you who do not know. And yes, I've had my own run in with this individual. Now, personally, I don't follow his work, but every so often I find something that he does that kind of catches my eye. On this particular one, he was using a couple seals, sigils, and a doorway to summon a couple Necromaya icon entities for the means of cursing. As my brother and I were talking about, we were also talking about Joseph Young's work. We were talking about Esben Cayen's work. We've been talking about a few well-known occultists, black magicians and sorcerers and sorceresses out there that do live rituals through evocations or invocations, possessive states of consciousness where these spirits take over your body. We were discussing this because of how humorous this video was. He knelt down and within 2 seconds supposedly was taken over by these spirits, started speaking, making this weird voice, but within a couple of minutes started coughing and hacking. If anybody has ever seen somebody who's been possessed, if those who have actually been possessed would tell you, it's like looking through somebody else's eyes. You're there but you're not the one in control. You're aware of what's going on. And depending on the impact or degree of the possessive state will determine if you remember it or not. Okay? Now, obviously, if you were truly possessed and you were and this being was speaking through you would not be coughing and hacking throughout the entire video. You would not be trying to rush the possessive state. It would be a genuine possessive state. Now, viewing this, even my brother had a laugh at this video just as much as I did. I mean, it was a good show. Good laugh, even. But it wasn't real. And everybody who has seen this video has said the same exact thing. Now, what's interesting about this is when I spoke of Espen Cayenne's rituals, or I've talked about Joseph Nunn. Joseph Nunn literally takes at least 3 hours, if not more, per night working with the beings that he works with. Every day throughout the day, I am invoking them, evoking them, calling them throughout the day. Even when I go into my altar room, I can be in there for hours calling on them to the point where energy is outrageous. You even learn that time and space within your altar room disappears when you're doing these rituals. You may think you've been in there for a couple of minutes, when in fact it's been an hour or two, sometimes 3. I've gone in there where I've come out hours later. But I've also learned that when calling on demons, angels, the jinn, the Ugan, the Loa, you may have something planned, but you're not prepared for when they step in and something happens. You see, 9 times out of 10, when you go in to an altar room, the energy is going to change, especially when you perform blood sorcery. When you do any form of evocation with these beings, it may go in your favor. Other times, they're going to say, nope, not going to happen. You may want to work with Balaam, the influencer of women, or the great king, even. But they'll go, nope, you're going to be working with Beelzebub tonight. Other times it's, nope, I know what you need. I want you to do this. You see, it doesn't always go according to plan. It doesn't always go to your way. But on top of that, you've also got what is known as the universal way. The universal way really messes with you. You see, there's your way, there's their way, and then there's the universal way. If the universe wants something, it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to happen. And I think a lot of these newbies that get into the left-hand path, like all these ones that seem to contact me, either want to get into the Illuminati to get that quick fix. They want to sell their soul. They want to get in touch with Satan and become rich and famous. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to learn or grow or evolve. If it's not that, then it's, well, I want this and I want that. I'm willing to pay you to make it happen. But they don't take into consideration that when you do a ritual for them, it's not a quick fix. It is a band-aid. Nothing less, nothing more. It's one of those things where if you call on a being such as a demon, let's say for an example, you want something done within, let's say, let's say for an example, a form of adultery. Of course, none other than Asmodai. Asmodai is the demon of lust. He is the demon of wrath. He was also a former angel. Okay, so therefore he's also celestial in nature, who is now one of the 9 crowned kings of the Goetia. Okay, now in the book of Tobit, he was infatuated with a woman to the point where he murdered 7 out of the 8 husbands, who are also brothers. Talk about keeping it in the family. My point is that he slaughtered them. The 8th brother, the final and last brother, who took this woman as his wife, called on a higher being, a higher angel, a more powerful angel, and was told how to deviate his attentions to keep him at arm's length. Now, how can we utilize this in a form of ritual? Think of it as a circle, the circle of protection, as witches, as pagans and Wiccans so colorfully put it. When you're using any form of goetic circles, that's basically what you're doing. You're keeping them at arm's length. Now, if you truly want to evolve and you truly want to form that relationship and grow, you're not going to use a circle of protection. You're not going to utilize anything outside of what is needed for the ritual, be it the chalice, a skull, the inverted or regular pentagram, the altar cloth, the athame itself, or the cutting tool, the burn pot, the incense, things that you're going to need, because you don't need anything too fancy for any ritual setup. You really don't. But a lot of people think that you need to spend thousands of dollars on an altar. You really don't. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Although throughout your practice, as you grow and learn and evolve, it's going to shrink, it's going to grow, it's going to change as you do. But it comes down to your practice. Okay? Now, when we look at the energies, the spirits, knowing what they're about and knowing what you're doing can align. But you have to be open to that change. You have to let them lead you. You have to let them teach you and guide you. Most people are uncomfortable with this. For an example, and I've talked about this before, I've called on the 9 kings. I've called upon certain beings from Caractacus. About 3 months later, I saw the results. It wasn't what I expected them to be, but I was open to whatever came through, whatever happened. I didn't care what it was. And so many people just got up and left work. They just put their 2 weeks in, or they just quit, or they were terminated. And I found myself in training, I guess you can say, for the position that I was seeking to do. Now, I didn't get that position. But the higher ups know that I was seeking that position and that I'm able and willing to take charge if need be. You see, this stuff happens. It wasn't my will, but it was the universe's will. You have to be open to that energy and that current, that change, no matter what you're doing. You don't need a power. You don't need a circle of protection. You don't need anything for a circle, not even a triangle of evocation. Although you can utilize it if it suits your fancy. But if you look at the circle in general, it is more of a circle of empowerment. It's meant to empower your spells, your invocations and evocations, your mystical and magical workings. Nothing more, nothing less. It is just another tool. It doesn't matter if you look at, say, E.A. Koetting's work, Espen Cayenne's work, Joseph Nunn's work. Choose your own, because that's what it's about. It's about you as the individual. Now, personally, in my own career as a sorcerer, as a black magician, a Satanist, and a necromancer, I've learned that seals and wardings are great. Utilizing personal sigils of these beings makes that connection a hell of a lot easier. But most importantly, the doorway. The inner sanctum is that doorway. When you look at the Necromyicon, say Donald Tyson's work, or that of the first seal of Inanna out of Simon's Necromyicon, or you go into the Mazajira Cabal system, you're going to see a doorway. And you can actually trace these doorways going all the way back into the ancient worlds. You look at South America, Native American belief structures of drawings on rock walls, on temples, religious temples. You're going to see this doorway, this spiritual nexus that allows you to pass forth between this world and the next. That's why when you look at your inner sanctum, you're seeing it as a nexus, a portal, where time and space stand still. There is nothing but that communion between you and Deitas, the gods themselves. Doesn't matter if it's the Ugan, doesn't matter if it's the Loa, doesn't matter if it's the elementals, the gods, demigods, demons, angels, the jinn. It's between you and them. But you have to put the work in. No one is going to do it for you. Rise and fall upon your own motivations. Research, study, practice, and experimentation takes years to grow, to master the occult arts. My advice to those of you who are serious adepts, meaning students of the pantheons, the mystical and magical workings out there, utilize the 7 forbidden arts, the practices, break them down into their independent structures, and master each one independently. Only then can you put them together and utilize them for great advantages. With that said, Have a great night. Study well. Practice hard. The more you put into it, the more you get out. Learn about energy manipulation, energy raising. I hope this has been intellectual. I hope it's been educational. And you can always message me on Facebook or here. But you have to have that respect, not only for your elders, but also for the gods themselves. That inner and outer sanctum. Very, very important. Have a good night.